A goal, Quishbilly, Huddersfield Town. The most famous goal of Quishbilly's life.
Is this the moment for Lee Fowler? It is. Take your place in Division 2, Huddersfield Town.
In Steve Simonson's boots now. He's missed. Steve Simonson clears the frame of the goal and collapses in a heap of tears. Huddersfield Town are promoted.
Mustafa Schindler has a chance to write his name in Huddersfield Town legend. And he takes that chance!
Instinctively, you give to me the love that I need. I cherish the moments with you. Respectfully, I see to thee. I'm aware that you're cheating when no one makes me feel like you do.
Upside down. Boy, look at me. Inside out. Round and round.
We miss Cozzy, don't we? Welcome to episode 116 of the Andy Takes That Chance podcast. The topsy-turvy terriers are back. And so is the most inconsistent, erratic, and not often enough ecstatic quad of town fans who are more like the four pillars rather than the four pillars of this podcasting community. We're back and ready to review the last week's goings on. In the stead of a man more hungover than Town's performance against Nottingham Forest, aka Richard Scouse-Marler, back today is Andy Kaye. How are you doing, Andy?
I'm good, mate. Thanks for inviting me back. I'm happy to step into Cozzy's shoes, drunk as he may be.
After failing in the qualifiers, have come down with me on account of him being more of an eater than an egg beater. It's our culinary expert, Phil Senior. You all right, Phil?
Very good, thank you.
And finally, a man who is more homes under the hammer than poor old Dwayne. It's the ogre, Dan Porritt. How's the sauna today, mate?
Bit chilly tonight, mate, if I'm honest with you. I need to get a finger involved out here.
You're going to be like John Motson when it gets to December, aren't you, out there in with your little coat, your sheepskin on and your little microphone?
My building work's still going on in December. I won't be happy, man.
Fantastic. Right, guys, before we get into things, I'm always proud to say that this podcast is sponsored by Magic Rock Brewing. Magic Rock, you can join us. I think quite a few of us jumped there on a match day, pre and post match. So come and join us. Some decent drinks up at the tap room in Birkby, and there's one in Home Firth as well if you fancy getting the training as well. Also, you can use our code AHTTC10 for 10% off of all web orders at magicrockbrewing.com. Right then, guys, let's get into Huddersfield Town 0, Nottingham Forest 2. The roller coaster continues. I think sometimes before we start ripping Huddersfield's performance to bits, which we're probably not going to do, I think it's okay sometimes to say that the opposition nailed a game plan completely. Forest never looked like a side at the bottom with 1 point to me. We have a list of things which is our kryptonite, if you like, and that's pressing our backline in possession, doubling on the wide players, and essentially isolating Danny Ward. And then when you get in front of us, on the scoreboard, sit off in a deep block, and we'll struggle to break a lot of teams down unless it's from a Sorba Thomas corner. And I think Nottingham Forest ticked every box of how to beat Huddersfield Town. And I think sometimes you have to put your hands up and say, fair play, the better team on the day won the game. And I think that was certainly the case on Saturday. Guys, how did you see the game? So, Poz, we'll go to the sauna first of all. How did you see the game through the steam and the coals?
I think you called it right there, Matt, to be honest. After about 10 minutes in, you almost got that inevitable feeling that, we weren't going to get much from the game. Forest started brightly, as you'd expect, with a managerial attacking midweek. They're all out to impress, and it's a bit of a false position for me for that as Forest. I think they're bottom of the league, but when you've got a manager there that's for whatever reason not got the players playing for him, that's what can happen. Teams, you go through the motions. I'm sure we've all done it at work when we've got a boss that we don't particularly like or are too bothered about. You go through motions on a day-to-day basis, but you never really go above and beyond. And once he walked out of the door, or was sort of pushed out, I think anyone who's been going to watch Huddersfield Town for any number of years would have maybe predicted that scoreline or that sort of game, we're always likely to happen. It's just a shame, isn't it? Because it's typical Town. You get get a good win after a defeat. You know, nice sunny day down at the stadium. You know, South Stand were sold out, decent crowd. I think sort of just 17,500 roughly. You know, bit of feel good factor about the club. Fans who were maybe staying away for various reasons decide to come down and see how we're getting on. And you know, we put in not a 2-0 loss. You can accept a 2-0 loss if you play well, but we didn't particularly do a right lot, did we? Seemed devoid of any ideas. We, seemed to biggest cheers at bay seemed to be when we got corners, because it seems to be his biggest threat. You know, which is fantastic, not a problem at all with that. But you can't rely on that every single week to win your football matches. You've got to be able to create a lot more than what we do. Then we're going to come on to maybe Danny Ward in a bit more detail, but for me, it's like playing with 10 sometimes, and that's probably a little bit harsh on Ward. It depends on whoever we play in that top role at the moment. We can't find a way to bring that player into the game in any way, shape, or form. But obviously, it was Ward on Saturday, so let's discuss him. People will argue don't get a lot of service, which is probably right. But when he does get that service, his first touch is poor. Gets bullied for me. 5 centre halves. He's not the sort of striker. He's not the sort of man to hold it up. But if you're playing Championship football, you've got to be able to do that at least for a couple of seconds to ping it wide or to drop it back into midfield and spin off and look for a through ball in. But yeah, it was just one of those. I don't know. It were just kind of written in the stars, and people have talked about 2016, 2017 vibes coming out of the club at early season, and I mean, no way that weren't the case, and Saturday just fully cemented that view for me that if it were going to be that sort of season, your typical Town losses are losses, and it was a really bad performance for me. So, not being overly critical or overly downbeat, it's disappointing that we lost at Stoke and got ourselves back into a really good position with a great 3-0 win at Blackpool, which was a shame we didn't have a pod so we could discuss that victory in a bit more depth. But it is what it is, and then you've got to follow those victories up though with some at home as well. There's no point really going over there and winning 3-0 and then coming back and putting in a bit of an abject performance. So I think it was probably more disappointment and frustration for me rather than what else on Saturday.
Phil, you were at the game on Saturday. I think we'll bring the Danny Ward chat further forward now. Pozza's gone into a bit of depth there about Danny Ward. And I think there's one standout moment was when Danny Ward got booked, where the ball was fizzed into his feet, and it, he tried to control it, and it bounced 10 yards in front of him, and he lunged in. Frustrated. It was a frustrated lunge, wasn't it, Phil? You could see that a mile off. It was. Every time the ball went forward to Danny, the centre back, I think it's Figueiredo, the centre back, the number 3, he was right up Danny Ward's backside. Very physical. And Danny Ward's really struggled with that aspect of the game, didn't he? He didn't, he tried to drop off into space and he'd get followed. It did link a couple of, it's very easy to miss, one touch link off play. And he did do a couple of that quite nicely at some point in the first half. But probably not a good day for him. And there's a lot of stick for him. He's one of these players, isn't he, Danny Ward, where if he doesn't have a good game, the stick usually comes his way, rightly or wrongly for whatever reason. How did you see that and the game itself? For me, it felt a bit like a hangover, really. Blackpool was great, and then maybe we expected Forest to be this bottom of the table side that weren't very good. But, I had a conversation on Friday which went along the lines of someone who's quite well connected, just sort of said, they were playing to get the manager sacked, and that rang an alarm bell for me. And Pozza's mentioned that as well. And then when that sort of alarm bell went off, I thought, we're maybe going to see a different Forest side. Do you think Town weren't really prepared for what Forest brought? And what did you think of Danny Ward? There's a long way around the houses there for you.
Yeah, I don't think that. I feel like we're giving Forest a bit more credit than they deserve, to be honest.
Go on, just say they were shite. Go on.
I thought they were poor too. I just think that the game plan wasn't what it should have been and where it should have been. So I was really looking forward to it. That was my first game this season, because we played cricket and stuff, and we're really looking forward to seeing Simon Thomas kind of get at players and just that kind of the excitement from the fans. Every time I looked, we were in a right back position, a right wing back position, and it was kind of worrying to see that. It just didn't seem right to me, and I feel like we were too conservative. We put linking into Danny Ward. We played a lot of balls backwards again. Hoggy was getting the ball in midfield. There was simple passes forward, and we were choosing kind of like the easy option. It got to one point, it was ridiculous, and I just thought, are we trying to build and build and build, but things weren't working. And for Danny Ward, I thought I'd have a real good look at how he plays, and he works his nuts off. He really does, and it's not for the want of trying. So what's nice about tonight is that we're not talking about a game where we've got players who are tossing it off and can't be asked. But they've actually put a shift in. It may be in the wrong way, and things haven't come off. But Danny Ward works really hard, and you're right. Pozza mentioned it's not his natural game as a target man. It's not his natural game, but he was dropping off into the pockets, and the ball wasn't being played into him. Which then goes on to Lewis O'Brien, because Lewis O'Brien for me was running into areas where the ball was never going, and it just seemed really disjointed compared to how they have been playing recently, where obviously we've been kind of counter-attacking or bombing on them and putting more people forward. So it was just it was a funny one, wasn't it? It was a mixed bag. I came away from the game just thinking, well, nothing's really happened there today. We didn't necessarily give them the goals, but they didn't. I don't think they deserved the goals. I don't think anyone deserved to win that game. But it was very strange. It's one of those games where you can't really put your finger on it. And I'm sure we'll probably talk about individual players a little bit more going forward. But there were just too many people that had a bit of an off day, and I really do think that the formation and the way we were set up, never mind how they set up to play against us, the way that we set up was not the right way to play against us. When we're at home, we're full of confidence. We've got these attacking players who are flying at the moment, looking really dangerous, and all of a sudden we've got one of them who was behind the halfway line half the time, making last-ditch tackles and back stick, and then we've got Koroma and Danny Ward who weren't really offering any width. They were kind of up in the middle of the pitch, and the balls weren't being accessed. So it was just a funny game for me, really funny game.
Andy, what did you
say? Because sorry, I was going to say from sitting, well, obviously you can see it from anywhere, but certainly from behind goal rather than a side on view. Forest obviously were well aware of Sorba Thomas being our only major attacking threat from free play, and you could see that whenever we got the ball, their sort of whole squad almost shifted left. They were quite happy to let their right-hand side be free, and it became increasingly more noticeable, the sort of lofted 25-35 diagonal ball across from Johnny Ogg across to Tofolowo Koroma, because Forest just packed out that right-hand side, and Koroma just got Thomas just got no joy whatsoever. We're having to, like you say, we're having to drop to halfway line to receive ball when really he needs it, on half turn and running. And I just think Forest dealt with that really, really well. And as soon as
they clattered him as well, Poz. There's Blackpool tried it as well. The couple of times he's been clattered by Max Lowe, I think it was, who
I think the
really went in
goal of how much space there was down our left hand side, their right hand side, because the whole game, the whole Forest squad team would sort of moved across 10 yards left just to stop Thomas, and it worked in that respect, stopping him, but it also left loads of space, and that's how they got their first goal. Bombing down right and a really good ball in.
And I think we've got to be. I think we've got to be brave in those. Sorry, mate. Yeah, I think we've got to be brave in those positions. I think we've got to make sure that our wingers stay high and force them to drop back, because we were just literally, like you said there, just playing into their hands, weren't we?
Let's bring Andy in.
We're just not brave at all. That's a great way of describing it, Phil. For me, it's just that we seem to have our jobs, we have our roles, whatever they might be, and nobody's got the confidence or the bravery to go and try and do something different. It just seems like if that doesn't work, if doing the U-shape, moving it across the back, and doesn't open up a gap, we haven't got anybody that's got that Carol Eiting sort of flair that can pick a pass. It seems to me like it goes in that U-shape, and then whoever's playing centre forward, if it comes into them and it bounced back off like it tended to do off Danny Ward, particularly first half, with that horrible challenge that he put in. He should have gone for that for me. We just don't seem to have that plan B, and I know that we talked about Bielsa's plan is plan A, just do plan A better, and Corberan's from that school of thinking. But it just we've seen that performance loads of times last season. We'll probably see it again later on this season. they look tired from the start for me. I don't know whether we've said they underestimated Forest, thinking that that they're there for the taking. We don't have to put too much in. And the real shock for me is that a professional football team can go from being as bloody awful as Forest have been to being bang average, but that's all that they needed to beat Town on Saturday. That change in mindset and effort and belief, they out shithoused us, they outsang us, they did everything better than Town did on Saturday. 3 points, well and truly earned. The worst side of it is I've got 2 Forest fans who were parents of lads in my football team. Both of them rocked up to me with a big, one of them came in the bloody kit today, never talk about Forest. And suddenly they're swaggering down the touchline, giving it, all right, lads, how are we getting on? So, yeah, I'm grumpy as hell about it, but they didn't have to be that great to beat us. And it scares me that nobody is prepared to take that chance and try and beat somebody and lose the ball. It just feels like they're going to get their heads kicked in by Corberan and his cronies if they make a mistake and step out of the extremely complicated thing that we've got going on. So I worry when I see things like that. We just need a bit more flair for me.
The passes, so Huddersfield made 650 passes to 274 to Forest. So you can see, what's happening there. Huddersfield have had a lot of the ball and a lot of it has gone sideways. Yeah. So we've talked about Danny Ward a little bit. I'm sure we'll maybe cut Danny Ward some slack this week. He's had it tough. He's had 3 centre-backs to cope with. And we saw when Meepo came on as well, that when we put the ball in the box, he's got 3 policing him. And there was a lot of it, I thought, when we're throwing these balls in the box, throwing, crossing, whatever, apart from unless it's a corner, there's not enough men in the box either. Forest had a back 6 at one point. At one point, they had a back 6 and then they converted to a front 5, and it was flat as well, And we've got 1 striker stood with 3 centre-backs while we just knock it side to side. And it just felt like, and this is where Sinani and Josh Karoma need to maybe bring something a little bit different. And we love those 2 guys on this podcast, great players, this Conch is still here, for Josh Karoma, but it wasn't quite their day either. And I couldn't quite like Phil says, I couldn't quite put my finger on why Karoma and Sinani couldn't quite get into the game. They
literally didn't give them the ball, did they?
When they did, they got pressed as well. Yeah, and when they did, they got pressed in the wrong areas, and it just all fell down. And the Lewis O'Brien and Hogg thing that you mentioned, Phil, is something interesting that I was looking at as well, because that 3-4-3 against Blackpool, the 3-4-3 system that we're playing in an open game against Blackpool, who played a 4-4-2 system, 2 versus 2 in midfield, it worked really well. Lewis carries the ball, he runs with the ball, and Hogg just sits in, doesn't he? And he just gives it nice and easy to someone like Thomas on the right or Sinani. Nice those short 5-yard passes. But when the team sits back in that back 6 and Hogg has the ball, it's only going to go sideways. People will point to a 90% passing accuracy or whatever. But this is where, and this is not Hogg's game, so this isn't a criticism of Hogg in particular. But this is where you need someone, maybe a Sinani, just to drop off, and Hogg can roll back in. And they were talking a lot in the previews up to the game about all these different combinations they were working on, and maybe they've worked on a lot of things and it's got a bit overcomplicated again. But one of the things that really sticks out like a sore thumb when a team get in front and then sit back is in the middle of a pitch, we tend not to be quite accurate. And a couple of things that I've picked out stats wise for this particular game as well. So Town attempted 1 through ball in the entire game, just 1. And that really was a standout point, which also indicates of 650 passes, 1 of them is a through ball. And that indicates perhaps a problem with precision, with passing through. And it is difficult to get through Forest. The other thing, there were 10 key passes. Again, some of these are from set pieces. Sorba Thomas, Ward, Sinani and Karoma only had 1 shot each the entire game. Only Lewis O'Brien attempted more than 1 dribble in the whole game as well. There's a comment behind me from the old chap who sits behind me saying footballers don't dribble anymore. And I kind of like one of those where you kind of roll your eyes a little bit, because we've been watching Sorba Thomas, all season, going down the wing and putting balls in. But, you look at the stats and he's not far wrong. There's only one person done more than 1 dribble, and 25 crosses into the box, only 6 of them are accurate. 2 of those for Tom Lees at the end, where maybe he should have done a bit better on one of them. But it indicates, like you said, there's not like it all sort of points to what you're saying a little bit, Phil. There's not a lot of support for the likes of Danny Ward and Meepo up front, and There's not a lot of precision coming through the middle either. We've got a lot of strengths to this team. You know, we're not going to sort of hang them out to dry or anything. There's a lot of strengths to this team. Toffolo and Sorba Thomas as wing backs, fantastic players. You know, Toffolo, if you ever listen to this again, Toffolo, sign your goddamn contract, mate. We're clinging for that. And you, Lewis, if you ever listen. But you know, we you know, these guys are great players. And then, you know, we've just kind of, I think it's one of those games, Phil, where I think we just need to just draw a line and move on a little bit, because it just didn't happen, did it? And I do give credit to Forest. I think they disrupted us really well. The goal they scored, Brennan Johnson's gone down the right. You know, he's not done a trick or anything. Levi Colwell's kind of got he got half caught on his heels, didn't he? And Johnson's off, and it's a brilliant cross, an absolutely brilliant cross, and a good header. And those are the typical British goals of yesteryear. You know, you love those kind of goals if you score them. You know, the Andy Carroll one where Gerrard whips it in for England and he puts it. You know, we love those kind of goals. Obviously not against us. And I just thought Forest did quite well, but from Huddersfield, there are other things that I've looked in as well. Poz, you love a stat as well, don't you, Poz? When Huddersfield go behind, and this seems to be a reoccurring theme as well, when we go behind and teams sit off, we haven't won a game where in the last 19, I've done 19 games because I couldn't be bothered going back any further. We've lost 15 of the last 19 games we've gone behind in and not won one of them. And again, it's the same sort of thing. And that's 80%. So you can sit there and 80% of games we go just a shade under 80% of games we go behind in. We're going to lose. And I don't know whether this indicates a personnel issue, a tactical issue, or maybe a bit of both. What do you reckon to that, Poz?
Yeah, that particular stat doesn't surprise me at all. And I bet if we even go back further, even back to sort of Wagner days, I bet it's very, very
it were bad under that, yeah. But that was Premier League, a lot of that, so...
I would say circumstances are slightly different there, but the point still stands, done it once we were behind and you were sat there and you sort of stood watching, thinking, we've gone 1-0 behind now, what have we got? And as Phil's rightly said, nothing seems to change. Yeah, you can, I know Andy's mentioned Bielsa, you know, plan A, do, you know, plan B is do plan A better. And a lot of coaches employ that sort of thinking. When you're Barcelona, Man City, and you are genuinely better than the team that you're going to be playing, you can stick to plan A. Because
it's all right to bring Phil Foden off and put Riyad Mahrez on, though, isn't it? That's, yeah.
Exactly. When you can't do that. You can do it for 60 minutes, and then something's got to click, and then you've got to think, do you know what? Let's try something different. And like you say, Matt, the front striker is so isolated because so many times, whether you're playing 4-3-3 or 3-4-3, those three, to me, are not a three. They're a one and two really wide men. Now, for me, three up front, I know it's chalk and cheese in regards to quality, but if you take Liverpool as an example, they play three up front. How many times does Mo Salah sort of end up on wing? And if he does, when he gets ball, it's a diagonal run in towards goal rather than a traditional run down the line and cross. And Koroma and Thomas do that well, they sort of attack the space in behind the fullbacks, but then they're putting a cross in to one person against maybe two or three centre halves. For me, that's an area that we definitely need to look at. Don't want to be too critical because, as you say, it just seemed to be one of those games. After 10 minutes, I sort of turned to the fella next to me and said, "You know what? I don't think there's going to be much in this for us today." You could just tell it was just one of those games where 6 or 7 players played it 6 out of 10, and if you do that in Championship, no matter who you're playing, you're gonna lose. But we desperately do need to work out of a way to break down teams that play a low block, and sometimes you've just got to be more direct. I know it's a bit old school, but you just have. If it's not working,
forward.
Well, it's not so much getting diagonal balls onto edge of 18-yard box to cause a bit of panic. You know,
you got Naby Sarr on the bench, and you're 6'6", and there is an argument you can throw him up there, can't you? And little things like Wagner used to do with Heffler and Hudson. He used to put both up there, didn't he?
I think the most disappointing thing for me was at 2-0 down, you still, you know, even with 20 minutes to go, there just seemed a massive distinct lack of urgency. It were pass sideways, back, forward, back to the keeper. As Andy says, that U-shape, let's try again on the other side. Oh no, that avenue's closed. What can we do? I'll tell you what, we'll go back across the other side. And there were nobody really willing to take game by his scruff at neck and you know, get at him. You know, O'Brien tried on occasion. Wade Holmes came on and huffed and puffed again, but you know, showed no real difference or real quality. And I don't know. Do you just put it down to one of those games? And
I thought Dwayne did all right when he came on. To be fair, I thought he was the most likely person to make something happen. But I know what you mean, and I thought the Turton one was a wasted sub in many ways because Pearson can play right back, and it was for the system change, wasn't it? So it was a strange one, and Turton obviously made the error for the second goal, which is gone. I think it's gone down as an own goal now to Nichols, which I'm sure he doesn't want. So give it to Joe Lolly. You know, no goalkeeper wants that, do they, Phil? So what I was going to say was the surprise to me is when in these positions we've got a midfielder who can pass the ball in Alex Vallejo, and he seems reluctant to throw him on. You know, maybe this is the time, because going back to what I mentioned earlier about Hogg and Lewis O'Brien, we saw the benefit against Blackpool of those two and the energy that they bring. And I don't want to get this lost in the fact that this has been a brilliant start to the season either. And you know, we're all extremely happy with how it's going. This is just an observation maybe that Lewis and Hogg are similar in many respects in terms of the energy they bring, and they're very much in your face. You know, they'll press and do things, but neither of them pass the ball like Alex Vallejo. So you just wonder whether there's an opportunity to bring Vallejo on in situations like this, and maybe he will do that pass, that sort of through ball that we seem to be lacking. I don't know, Andy. I don't know what you think of the potential for him to come on in that situation, or maybe this is something to address in January.
I think Vallejo deserves a chance. Excuse me. I think Oggy often slows it down. Loving to bits for what he does, but he often slows it down. I wish there was some sort of stat as to how quickly the ball moves across the pitch for Town, or like speed gun at cricket. You can see how fast the ball's being bowled. How slowly do we pass the ball? How carefully? We look after it, but it just seems to be #ponderous whenever it moves around. And that for me is the bit that will unlock a defence. Forward passing, sideways passing, whatever. It's got to be done at pace, particularly if you've got that block. And if we just do it, whatever we do so slowly, and that's the worry for me. So if Vallejo is I think he's younger than Oggy, probably. Most people are probably.
None of those are.
But he's got to. Yeah, we've got to try something different. First definition of madness, isn't it? Doing the same thing over and over again. And we've played that game so many times. So in all of Corberan's time at the club, we've got to do something different for me. So yeah, I'd chuck him in. I wasn't impressed with him when he first started Vallejo, but I've been impressed since. Is it time for Hoggy to be sort of eased out of the side and some new ideas? A better range of passing. One thing I thought on what we tend to do with centre halves quite a lot is that 60-yard pass that sort of switches it from one side to the other. We didn't do that as well as we could, and it was Hoggy that was doing it, and I don't think he's quite as good. That's not his game. Whether Vallejo would be better at doing that, I don't know. But just because whatever we do, just speed, just do it. If you're going to be shit, but be quick. And shit.
Quick and shit.
Just slow and shit.
Shit quickly, yeah.
I agree. I think Vallejo, he can play, can't he? He will look his first, and this is, and I think they can all do it, and I think Hoggy can do it as well, because he's not going to play that long in a game where he can spray diagonals. He can do that, but your first look needs to be forward for me. It never seems to be. Vallejo will get it and he'll look forward. And you've got to break the lines, because you've got to turn you've got to turn them facing their own way. At the moment, everything's in front. So fair enough for keeping possession, but you've got to, and it only needs to be 5 yards. What really frustrated me was that it's just a 5-yard pass sometimes, just round the corner. Get them turning. You can play out. You can go back again if you want, but get them, move them out of the way. And we're literally not doing that. And but they can all do it. So when we talk about Oggy, we say, oh yeah, he's just one of those that's going to break the game down. No, he's not. He can do it. He can play forward fast. He can do it exactly the same as everybody else. It's just the fact that he decides not to, and whether he's been told that. So whether it's something they work on in training, and he needs to get it, give it, and he's, because he does drop in the pockets and gets the ball, but majority of times then it goes out wide or back. So, but there's so many times where it could have been played in, and this is where, when you had that stat about the through balls, doesn't surprise me, because you can't play a through ball from your own bloody half and then you struggle to play it from wide areas as well. We need to get the ball in and around the middle section of the pitch to cause them problems, because obviously you draw them in, and then we've got the opportunity to break out wide. So I think they can all do it. It's just whether they actually, apply it when on the pitch. Oggy can do all that.
Yeah, it's a second man running as well, isn't it? And like you said, Lewis and Sinani would really struggle to. Well, Sinani in particular struggled to get into the game. I thought Lewis had a good game. To be honest, I thought Lewis was probably our best player on the day. But Sinani sort of struggled really to get into these pockets, decent areas. And he was marked effectively, and maybe he can do that, because, like we said, Hoggy, this is in no way. These are in no way criticism of Jonathan Hogg. We all love Jonathan Hogg as a player. He's a Huddersfield Town legend, isn't he, for what he's done at this football club? But there are certain things whereby the ball needs to move quicker in areas, and people are looking at different options. So it's not so much a case of a criticism of Hogg. It's just, would a different option be better in this scenario? And that's pretty much it. I would never drop Jonathan Hogg from Huddersfield Town, the first 11. I think he's great. He does a lot of wonderful things for this football club. But if Nottingham Forest have got 11 men camped on the edge of the box, then maybe you sacrifice a less creative player for a more creative player, was my point in that situation.
Yeah, all day. And like you said before, bringing Turton on and taking Matty off, that's just random. Matty's played right back for loads of years. He knows exactly how to play the game. In fact, he's not a bad right back, to be honest. But that's just seemed to be a really strange decision, and made too late, way too late.
Pozza, you've got some theories on Hogg.
Don't take your top goal scorer off when you're 1-0 down.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think, you're talking about the you've just sort of been all discussing the man on the ball. I know this is Hogg, but as someone who played at the back as a defender, sometimes you get a lot of stick because you hold on to the ball too long, or you make like a long ball. But sometimes you've got to look at what's in front of that, and if there's no movement and no one's dropping off a man, or no one's making any runs, or no one's creating any space, unless you just stand there with the ball, what else can you do? So, it's kind of twofold. Yeah, I agree. In that situation, Matt, drop a less creative player for a more creative player. But even if that player is Vallejo when he comes on, if there's no one to pass to, what can he do? So to me, you're looking at more of an overall picture rather than just blaming the man. In this case,
I love it when people talk about sport, especially football, and everyone's played in different positions. And Pozza will be like, those boys in front of me never move. That's why I'm kicking out play. Goalkeepers will be like, centre half, what's centre half doing? Strikers always complaining about midfield because he can't find a forward pass.
Never your fault, is it? Never ever your fault.
Yeah.
Oh dear. I tell you what, Dwayne, Pozza, I don't know if you were close to this, but there were a few murmurs. Dwayne Holmes, when he came on, I don't know if you guys caught the interview with Dwayne on Radio Leeds as well. I like Dwayne as a character. I think he's quite a funny guy. I think he's a good sense of humour, Dwayne. He seems like one of those players that, when you go on about, I wouldn't mind having a pint with so-and-so and so-and-so. Dwayne, for me, seems like one that would be sort of quite high up. I think he'd be quite comical. Mentioned on, I think this may be on Radio Leeds, that someone said that Town fans booed him when he came on. There was the interview on Radio Leeds where they mentioned, I think Oggy mentioned the incident at Stoke whereby he got booked, and, he did look completely shocked when that happened, and he's saying that Stoke, fans at Stoke are saying this and that to him, which have no place. And I think it's good that Dwayne's had a platform to be able to call that out. Derby fans were giving him absolute dog's abuse down there first game of the season, and I thought he played pretty well at Derby as well. So and Forest, you kind of understand, the Derby reject thing. There's the whole rivalry thing there, but for me, Poz, I didn't hear any Huddersfield fans boo him when he came on. It was mentioned. I hope it's not the case. Even so, do you think maybe Dwayne, we hopefully some Town fans will rally around Dwayne and get behind him? Because I like Dwayne as a character.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that incident at Stoke, because where I was sat, obviously he's waiting to take a long throw, and you could, from where I was, you couldn't hear, but you could see him sort of turn around. It was obvious something had been said, and he looked like he was having a bit of a laugh, to be fair. And I think he actually probably got booked for time wasting more than else when he was sort of doing whatever he was doing. But he seemed to be doing it with a laugh on his, a bit of a smile on his face. So exactly what we said.
They said in that interview that the referee said he was winding up the Stoke fans, which
maybe that's because it could have potentially looked like, I didn't hear the interview, so I didn't know that, but it could have potentially looked like that because he sort of looked round and he was having a bit of a laugh. And you know what crowd like, as soon as the player says, they're up in arms. know what fans are like. You can give as much abuse as you want, but as soon as anyone tries to give fans it back, you sort of people start crying about it, don't they, and stuff. But yeah, I think Holmes potentially an easy target. He played for us before. He never, although I won't say he was bad with us, he was never like a star man or anything like that. And I think the club maybe bigged him up a little bit too much when he returned, and it all conspires, doesn't it, when he's not, not had a fantastic start to people to get on his back. But just the boos, certainly near me, there were nothing. I think it were probably the Forest fans that made it sound like there were boos. And you're always going to get odd.
Yeah, they booed him. I heard that. Yeah, but I didn't hear anything. I'm glad that if it did happen, it's definitely a small minority. That's
yeah. You get these people out, but near me there were nothing certainly that I picked up on.
Good news. Apparently near you there was nothing all game, Poz. This is
apparently it was that quiet. It certainly would have heard.
So the Cowshed Loyal, I blame Ben Greaves for the lack of atmosphere in there every time it happens. It's always Ben Greaves' fault. So any complaints, address them to General Grievous. But yeah, there's a few people have had a pop, haven't they, about how quiet it was. What went on? Because the Forest fans were really great, weren't they? In terms of noise, did that put people off? Was it the game on the pitch, or?
I don't think it was particularly that, mate. I think we've discussed it already. Andy touched on it. The pace of the play is just so slow and soul destroying, and the stat that you've picked out that once you go one behind, you've 80% chance of losing. It turns into one of those where it's there's not much hope. You need hope as a fan. The main thing that you need is hope. And when it went to 2-0, the hope just drained out of the whole ground. It's not just a South thing. Obviously, we get a lot of stick because it's the singing section, and that's where the atmosphere's got to be generated for. And one of the reasons that we originally set up, the group Carlos Loyal, was to try and change the mentality of English football into no matter what's going on, you stick by the team, you sing and stuff like that. And that's going to take a lot longer than let's call it 4 years when you knock COVID seasons off to ingrain that mentality into a fan base. And also, you still need something to ignite that fire. You still need something to get behind. You just need that crunching tackle or that little bit of a through ball or a couple of corners, just to give you something to cling on and get behind. And certainly second half yesterday, there were absolutely none of that. And to be fair, it just turned into a bit of a bar fest, didn't it? I'm quite sure it wasn't just
one of those games, mate. Just one of those
people
games.
streaming out all over the place with 10 minutes to go because the hope was just not there. Give us some hope. Like Andy says, be shit, but do it well. Give us something to get behind a little bit, anything, and we will cling to that, and we will, try rally round. But when you see ball going backwards for the 300th time in the last, 20 minutes, what hope have you got of a goal? So a little bit of fair criticism, I would say. But when you do what we do, you put your head out there, and people will take shots when it's not as good. And, for whatever reason, I've seen posts online and seen who's posted them, and they've got their own agendas and own reasons why they might do stuff like that. So I'm happy to take opinions. I'm happy to take the plaudits when it's good and criticism when it's bad. I'm not, it's water off a duck's back. We've had a lot worse said about us.
And also as well, there's always the other thing. If you think the Cowshed Loyal are too quiet, open your mouth and sing. It catches, doesn't it? So there we go. But fair enough.
We're always welcome to people. So if anybody's out there thinking they can do better, come and help us out.
Definitely good that it was sold out though on Saturday. I thought that was a positive step. So good news.
Yeah, definitely. It was a bit sparse at the start of the season, so to have it sold out is fantastic, and just shows that it is a popular area at ground as well. So,
we just moved in there. Me and the lads just moved in there, and so about 3 or 4 games we've been in there, and you can't fault the effort from you guys down the front. We're in J, so we're a few rows back from you. We're sort of edging it. My lads listening for all swear words and loving it and what have you. But there's only so much you can do if the stuff that's going on in front of you is just so tepid and tedious and ponderous. You just sort of there's nothing there, is there? So like you say, if people are criticising it, well, have a go yourself. But the effort was there, certainly first half when the guys trying to get this thing going. There's only so much you can do before you just fall off your perch board, don't you? So
just think, sod it, I'm going home.
Yeah, Well, I was we were one of the 80-minute. Well, when Pearson missed that header, we ain't scoring today.
Is the argument though? You only sing when you're winning. When you're winning.
Blackpool sung that, didn't they, too, on Wednesday?
Do you know what I mean? So I can't comment because I'm not going and singing and all that stuff. So, and I totally get it. I get that you're affected by the performance on the pitch. So fair play to all. Like I say, people will say that, won't they? They'll say, "Oh, well, you only make a noise when we're winning," and that, you're going to get that all the time. So
I think people have just got to look at, when we were in Premier League, we lost a lot of majority games and it was loud, and it's like a season we lost every week and it was loud, and Championship season it was loud. It was one game in a pool of probably 50 that I could point to where it was bad, but because it's a bit like town performances, isn't it? You can play reasonably well for 10 games and have one bad one, and everyone remembers that. It's just how it is, isn't it?
So what's the difference? What's the difference with losing all those games in Premier League but singing all the time, and then losing games in Championship and not singing?
Expectancy. So expectancy, maybe, Pozza, would you say?
I would agree with that, Matt, yeah, I think probably expectations were probably a little bit too high yesterday from majority of fans.
Yeah.
Just look at a league table and see you're playing bottom of the league and expect you to roll up and win 3-0. And it's not as easy as that, is it? So
I thought it was all right. I thought it sounded all right.
Forest fans, that, Phil.
No, you could hear it. I mean, I was sat at the far end, so totally opposite. So, but you could hear them singing until, like you say, until it got to a point where it was a bit like, and then Forest fans kind of started singing. And you need to get a song for, when they sing like this. Is this a library? Surely there's a comeback for that.
Start singing. I think that's it.
Yeah, but that just it's just obvious.
I'll say one thing though. When you go 1 or 2 down to Forest, then singing "You've Lost That Loving Feeling" is quality, and that always makes me smirk. Does that? You're annoyed from going 1-0 or 2-0 down against them, and then they're singing that, and you're just like, that's quite good. Is that, to be fair? Yeah. It's unique as well. There's only them does it, and it's pretty decent now. It's decent. Anyway, we'll draw a line under that. And do you know what, guys?
They were loud and they've come off a massive run, and you could feel that energy from their crowd. That
definitely.
The manager had gone. The whole, like I said right at the start, anyone who's been watching town for a period of time knew that were coming yesterday. It came as no great surprise to anybody, and I'm guessing quite a lot of town fans probably made a bit of money on a Forest away win there on the old betting syndicates because it was that that sort of written in the stars. But just going back to your original point, Matt, it was quiet, but sometimes you can only, be infused so much by what you see on pitch.
Well, it was great against Reading, so there's always that in the bank. So
we won 4-0, obviously.
Yeah, but there's a time where we'd win 4-0 15 years ago, and it was quiet in the ground. So there's progress all the same. So let's go to the football forum. So every week after the game, we always throw out a tweet and ask for opinions to come in thick and fast. And when we lose a game, they come in thick and fast. So we've got quite a few this week. So what I'll do is I'll read some of these out, and you guys feel free to interject on any of these where you like. If you don't say anything, I'll keep reading them out. So the first one is Jerry Hinnon. So Jerry is a genuine American Town fan, which is always great to see. Jerry and my mate Joe as well. Genuine Americans, which is great. Not expats, which is always good to see. So Jerry says, not often you see Town have 70% possession and think that was dreadful, but you did today. Richard Burhouse says, we never got going. They closed down any space and forced us wide, countered well and took their chance as well. Then we couldn't break them down. Credit to Forest, excellent first goal and very disciplined performance afterwards. Move on, we won't win them all. James Tattersfield says, Forest deserved the win. They were more up for it than us. They are much better than the table reads, and perhaps we underestimated them. We'll be fine this season. We were too slow in decision-making and getting the ball moving. No killer pass or finish. We'll go again. That could have been posted right in the middle of our conversation there, couldn't it? Dan Peckett says, poor performance, but not the end of the world. We need to do things differently in the midfield, especially with Hogg and our defence becoming predictable with our passing decisions. I felt we could have done with Vallejo instead of Hogg to help build momentum, which we lacked. Hursty says, Forest were clearly playing to get Houghton sacked and showed some quality today. Had an extra man in midfield first half, and it showed. We changed in the second to put Sinani in midfield, but 2-0 early on took the game away from us. Never mind, we won't win them all. Guy Bradley says,
just to jump in, we won't win them all. I think it's any sensible Town fan will realise that we're going to have spells where we might win 2 or 3 up bounce and look really good, but then that'll be followed up with a couple of abject performances, and we're going to yo-yo up and down. And if that ends up with a mid-table finish, I'm sure well, if you'd have asked me at the start of the season, I'd have been more than happy with that. So, I think sometimes we come on stuff like this, and after matches we rant on about stuff. But when you take a step back, and actually we're probably about where we are. And, it's probably a little bit further in front than what we maybe thought we might be at this stage of the season.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's the roller coaster that we're riding at the minute. The Carlos Rollercoaster in full section, full speed, we should say. So Phil, 100% AZ vaccinated. So thanks for letting us know your vaccination, Phil.
Well, legend.
Not you, Phil. The other one. I'm also 100% AstraZeneca vaccinated as well, Phil. So there you go. AZ fans, friends. Why were we so off the pace? Concerning. I've read so much out there for him, and he's only put one line. So, which is pretty much why were we so off the pace? Soccer Sports at West Yorkshire FPL says we look tired and struggle to link up midfield in the front two. I'm really struggling to see how and why Danny Ward starts each week, and Turton doesn't offer much going forward, and he's shaking defence. Not ideal for a right back. Robert Smith, not the one from The Cure, says 5 at the back. Why do we insist on playing Hogg? Give Vallejo a go. With his superior passing range, it might give us more options. Hogg is not compulsory in every game. Guy Bradley's back. Says Toffolo pulled out of every 50-50 ball. If he hadn't pulled out of one right at the end of the first half, he'd have won a penalty.
I noticed that. Yeah.
He did the bunny hop. He did the bunny hop one where I just thought he got caught in two minds really, rather than pulling out of anything. I thought he got caught between cross shoot, dribble. I'm sticking up for my mate Harry Toffolo there. Screw you, Phil. Right.
I never said that. I just said
it was the look. It was the look. It was the look. Until he signs that contract, I'm just only saying nice things to him, and then when he signs it, then we can jump in. So David Sykes says they easily close down our attacking threat on the flanks, and we have nothing to offer in the middle. Too much faffing around at the back too. Pity they revert to that. Disappointing after a pretty good showing at Stoke and a performance at Blackpool. Smile a while fanzine, a game where it felt like the fans were watching a different game to Carlos Corberan. We were very narrow and tried to force the ball directly through the middle of the middle all of the time. 90 minutes of it. Whenever we got it wide, we came back inside. We played against all of our strengths today. Dag Barnett says, our lack of threat through midfield and centre forward was evident. Forest worked that out. If you stop our wide players, you blunt much of our threat. We need to find different solutions when teams do this. It feels like we've just read all the comments and then had our conversation, didn't we? And now we're just going, oh, we never saw any of this. So frauds, the lot of us. But yeah, so it's
interesting, Matt, because sometimes after games like that, you do get a wide range of opinions, but pretty much all the opinions are exactly the same. So that
really, really clear to see one of the really so clear, evident.
Yeah. Sometimes it's good to know that we're not completely out of opinion from everyone else as well, which is always a good thing, because sometimes you think, what am I on about if everyone else sees something different? But Mr. Dave Westy says Forest managed the game pretty well. Town had enough of the ball, but Forest were never under threat, which is also true apart from those set pieces towards the end. We never really looked like doing much with it. Terry and Nigel says Danny Ward, dross. If he's this bad now, imagine him in a couple more years. Why did we sanction his signing? He wouldn't be effective in League Two, and there's better strikers at the Dog and Duck. I don't know. I think Danny Ward would score a lot of goals at the Dog and Duck, if I'm honest.
Good side, the Dog and Duck.
I wonder how many Dog and Ducks there are, up and down the country, because I never playing Heavy Wool and Sunday League, I never came across a Dog and Duck. So
no, I didn't either. I played in that league. I don't remember any of them.
Mick Booth, Carlos is clueless. So here we go. We've got some different ones. So Carlos is clueless. He has no plan B. Going back to the old passing sideways back. Ward and Turton should not be in the first team squad. Actually, that's not too far away from some bits of what we were saying. Mark, the White of Acrefield, never got going. Hopefully a week to the next game and we should be okay. Ian, I'm not going to pronounce that surname, but it's not really a surname, but it's he says Danny Ward is a waste of a shirt. CC adapting to game situations. Sometimes he does, often he doesn't. Nick Barlow, always going to be a banana skin today after their manager went. Forest are better than their position suggests. We had an off day, it happens. Far too slow in possession, not enough running off the ball, and no gambling with passes when we needed to. We move on. I think a lot of these are kind of similar, so I'm going to skip over some of these, but thanks to Craig Holroyd as well, who's messaged this says, if we've played like Casanova before, today he woke up limp. I thought that was quite good. No penetration whatsoever. So Sean O'Doyle says, did we have the day off with a wink? Oliver Eaton as well. Forest had done their homework. Craig Watson just went, ugh. Causey threw in some fantastic stats as well, which were very much, no one knew that if we'd have scored 3 goals, would have won the game. Town Terrier says, watching specifically the runs of our strikers were making when our defence had the ball and not once did they try to pass to them. Feel sorry for Ward and Biko doing the hard work, only to see the ball go backwards all the time. And so thanks to Dean Smith, Tom Finnegan, Tim John, Gamer James, who got picked up on an incorrect for not proofreading his tweet. So we won't read that out, James, and embarrass you. And finally, Brett Lodge says the best team won. The first goal.
Read it.
Shall we read it? What did he put?
Read it.
He's put nothing to worry about. We are still way ahead of where many of us thought we would be at this stage. Need to get at least a point next week, though. 3 defeats in a row and things could start to get concerning. And he was obviously picked up because we won in midweek. So there we go. So it's not that bad, James. Don't worry, mate. And Brett Lodge says, best team won. First goal was the best move of the match. Quite simply, they wanted it more. Second half, it was clear they were happy with a 1-0 lead. Us gifting the second goal killed the game. I think that pretty much, we could have just said that, couldn't we, at the start and just called it a wrap. So thanks to everybody for joining our football forum. Like I say, when I finally sort my new laptop out, then we'll get back live and you guys can join us live and tell us that we're talking nonsense throughout the broadcast. Right, guys. So moving on from the football forum. So there's just a couple of little things that I wanted to pick up on just before we end the podcast episode. One of them is a chap called Nick Barlow. You might know him, Andy. Nick, you always see it. There's always one phrase in football, and Poz, we've heard this many times, where town fans will say, "I'll bear my arse on the town hall steps if so-and-so scores today." It's one of the most overused phrases ever, isn't it, in football? I'll bear my arse. And there was a famous one where someone said they'd do it in a window, wasn't there? And they actually did it in a window on the high street. And to fair play to Nick Barlow, Nick said that he couldn't see Huddersfield Town staying up after we lost to Wickham 3-2. I think a lot of us were quite downbeat after losing 3-2 to Wickham. And he's owned his tweet. Not many people own their tweets or own what they say. So fair play to Nick. And what Nick's decided to do is he wanted to do a naked lap around the stadium, but obviously kids around the place, Andy's got, young ones. They don't want to see that, Nick. So he's had to So what he did instead was he wore a mankini, made famous by Bora, and a tutu, and he did the step challenge up and down the stadium. So fair play. So Nick, fair play to Nick for doing that. He set up a Just Giving page as well. So he has done this for 3 charities. The Town Foundation, he's done it for the NHS cancer charities as well. And it's great work for Nick. What I'll do is I will post the link in the feed to this, and if you guys want to check that out for Nick, he'll be more than happy with you guys doing so. And also, I just wanted to say a bit of a quick get well soon to Daz Hopson as well. He's a Town fan who's going through a bit of a tricky spell at the minute. He's quite popular with his cricket online, isn't he, Daz? So I just wanted to say to Daz, if he does listen, I don't even know if he listens to the podcast, but if you do listen, Daz, there's a lot of Town fans wishing you the very, very best with what you're going through at the minute, mate. You're not alone. All of our DMs are open. If you're bored, you want to chat, we're all here, mate. Feel free to get involved, and want to wish you the very, very, very best in what you're going through at the minute. So, right, guys. So the last thing I've got, when we beat Blackpool 3-0 in midweek, and Carlos Corberan went over and applauded the Town fans, the song which was going around was the Harry Toffolo one. And I just thought at that moment, I think a lot of Town fans had the same thought as well. We don't really have a song for Carlos, and we're going to throw this to Poz, obviously, because he sits there with the megaphone, at the front of the Cowshed Loyal. So this is your fault, Poz, again. So essentially, Carlos doesn't have a song. Listen, we probably need Cozzy for this as well, but Carlos doesn't have a song, does he? And there was a few mentions of it. We cheekily tried to drip feed one, didn't we, Poz, about a year ago on this podcast, which was based on Americanos by Holly Johnson, the old song. But what do you guys think? Can you think of any particular tunes that we could throw in for Carlos Corberan? I'm going to throw this wide open, and we throw it as well to you guys that listen as well. Let us know when we post, when we tweet this, and when we put it on Instagram, Facebook. Let us know afterwards what sort of songs you would think for Carlos Corberan, and I'm sure there'll be some funny ones that we can come back to next week. So I'm going to throw it. So the one that we had was, I'm trying to remember it now, Poz, but it was Americanos by Holly Johnson. It was something like I can't remember if it was Super Carlos, Spanish Carlos. It was Super Carlos, New Balance Chinos, Jorge Scoff and Chicho, Spanish Carlos. Or, you know, that was one going through, and you could probably make that slightly better as well, but that might be a bit of a mouthful. And whilst we're at it, pause, Super Josh Koroma, we could do better than that as well for Josh Koroma, couldn't we?
It's tough. I always think songs that need to sort of, you know, obviously being part of what we do, it's like, look, what new songs can we get? What new songs can we have? And, you know, for which player and players and managers and whatever. But it's always tough. I think sometimes if you think too much about a song for someone, it doesn't work. I think sometimes it is random. You can think of a song and it'll be ace, and you start it off, and everyone looks at you as if to say, what on earth? And then someone somewhere else will just bellow out something really random.
A case in point would be the Gareth Southgate one. Do you know the Atomic Kitten Gareth Southgate one? When I first saw that, I was like, what on earth is this? And then it's caught on massively, hasn't it?
It's funny, you know, some players migrate to songs a lot easier than others, and I think, you know, Corberan obviously doesn't rhyme with the right a lot, so it is tough. But yeah, it's something to work on. There were murmurings of one for Carlos in sort of lower reaches at South Stand at Reading. Obviously, we were hoping to get that spread a little bit more on Saturday, but for obvious reasons, there were no point. I'll tell you what I'll do after, Matt. I'll send you the video so you can
sing it now. Want it? This is what you're here for, Paul.
It's not new. I can't actually remember the exact words to it. It was one of the lads who sits down at front of us sort of put it together. So I'll send you a video across and you can put it in Twitter feed. See what people think.
Is it not like this? No. No. Used to love that. What was it used to be, Andy, when Leeds Road, it used to be sponsored, the music used to be sponsored by was it WH Smith at the Shambles?
Wood's music at the Shambles, something like that, yeah.
Yeah, fantastic, good days. But Americanos by Holly Johnson. Phil, what about you? You know, did Town fans ever have a song for you? Anything?
I have no idea. I honestly, it's that long ago that I can't remember. But I do think it would be nice for them for the manager to have a bit of a song about him. Everyone else has, haven't they? Every manager.
Yeah. Well, apart from Mick Wadsworth.
Paul Wagner's.
Oh, David Wagner had loads, didn't he? There was the last. I used to love the Last Christmas one, Pause. You know, Last Christmas, I gave you my heart. The very next day, gave it away. That was a classic as well. Only used to come out at Christmas. It was better than Klopp, wasn't it?
Better than Klopp with a name.
Well, it was funny though, because you mentioned it and you were all there, but I watched the game at home and I thought the same thing. Like, he obviously went in front of the fans and it's obviously nice for him, isn't it? Because, you know, you play a full season behind closed doors, you don't get that kind of, you know, relationship with the fans. So it's nice for them at the moment to be able to do that. So,
do you know what?
Hopefully someone will come up with a really, really catchy song. Laurent Departure's song for my favourite.
Yeah,
Heartbeat.
I want something really easy. Something to do with supercalifragilisticexpialidocious, but I want the South Stand to grab the lapels and go, Andy Little, Andy Live. As part of that, can you imagine the magnificence of that song and then to see everybody giving it that as well? It'd be just like that Poznan thing, but even better. So there you go. I'll pop down next home game.
Blackburn, mate, come down. We'll get it going.
I'll be in Glasgow, but I'll show you what to do. Grab your lapels and we can do all that.
Send the lad.
Yeah, he'll do it. He'll want to get on camera. He loves it. Yeah.
Right. Do you know what I've done? Whilst you're singing Mary Poppins there, I've done. I fired up Down at the Mac because I think it was on Down at the Mac, and it was. And if there's also, is it time to give Carlos a song? So why don't we vet some of these? You know, they'll probably get hate posts on there after this, but we've got to the tune of Rio. His name is Carlos. He's the head coach for the Town. You make stupid gestures. I wish he'd sit the F down. How about that? That's
I like that one.
Yeah, it's quite funny. And then we've got the Wednesday one. Carlos had a dream to build a football team. I think we tried this.
It's just right. Can't stand a rip-off. Needs to be more
a bit more unique. A bit more unique.
Yeah.
Someone has put the Americanos one, but they've put. Oh no, he's not put any lyrics. That's never. And then we've got. And then this is down at the Mac. It's gone off into an argument about recruitment now. Yeah. So we've got Super Carlos, New Balance, Chinos, Paella, and Sangria. Super Carlos, not quite fit.
Jesus.
It's not scanning that, is it? It's not scanning.
No, it doesn't quite fit that one. But a mate of mine said,
I think work in progress here.
no, there's the one to the tune of the Flintstones as well. Carlos, Super Carlos, take us to the Premier League. I'm not. No.
I'm just reading that. I've literally just read that.
You read that one as well. Here we go. Here we go. This is my mate, one of my mates here. Spanish Carlos, New Balance, Chinos, Sangria, and Cruz Campos. Spanish Carlos. You see that scans better, Andy? Cruz Campos. You don't hear that very often, do you?
No.
That's it, really. I was thinking as well. You've got the Pep Guardiola one. We've got Carlos Corberan, but it doesn't quite fit.
Who even starts all these chants though? Like, what do you do? You just literally just stand in the middle and just start singing. Like Pozza was said there. Like, how random is that?
You have to get a bit wellied first, don't you? I remember the time of starting the Andy Booth chant and stuff like that. Yeah, you have to have a couple of.
What do you do? He's all like, "Come on, everybody," and then you start singing it, and then follow me.
All you need is like 2 or 3, to be prepped, and then you start singing it with 3, and then all of a sudden, if people kind of slowly join in, don't they? Pause, and then it grows a bit out,
It's
and then
like a thing. Certain people just seem to have a knack for it. So someone can get up and bell it out, and 100 decibels, and everyone's like, "No, I gotta get involved with that." And some sort of guy whispers it somewhere else, and that's all. There's 4,000 folks singing it, and you're like, he's a phenomenon. His football atmosphere and football singing, because it really is strange how it happens. Literally one person out of you can have what is he now? About 2,500-2,000-ish people. One person could, and somehow all gets into tune and all at the same time. And
do you know what I like? I like those foreign guys that get on microphone and just start going rah 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 rah. Can't you do that? Like, really like get one of them proper loud ones and just start saying loads of random words.
We have a few that's just like a tune, but then we get moaned at because it's too European, and then we get moaned at for not singing them, and then we get moaned at for singing them too much. So whatever we do, we get moaned at.
Fair enough.
Come in, Phil. Come in the 1 week. We'll show you how it works.
I'd love to see Phil. Phil with a megaphone. I think that would be what everyone wants to see, isn't it? Phil Senior megaphone.
Like, squeeze. Right shoulder.
I think that's it, lads. Unless there's any other business from you guys, anything else that you want to bring?
Not from me.
No, man.
No, nothing.
That's it. So again, thank you everybody for listening to the podcast. Remember, if you've got any decent Carlos song ideas, throw them our way. And what we'll do, we'll get in fact, no, we won't. We'll get Phil Senior to stand there with his megaphone and belt that out. Because I think that's what everyone wants to see. That's what everyone wants to see. No, they don't want to see that lob from Darlington anymore, Phil. It's Phil with the megaphone. That's going to be the overriding.
Why do you have to bring that out?
It's good because that's going to be the overriding thing, not the save at Barnsley. We'll throw the save at Barnsley in as well.
Yeah, do that one. That's better.
So what we'll do, throw them our way, and then we'll probably we'll get Phil or Cozzy to sing some of the better ones that have come through. So thanks to everyone. Thanks to Magic Rock for sponsoring. Thanks, Andy, for jumping in as well. There was one point when you went into that fridge, Phil's eyes lit up really. So
we're going to pass it straight through the screen for me.
That'll be all right. Next time.
Oh, dear. Right, excellent. So thanks, everybody, and we'll be back again next week.
There's a team that is dear to its followers. The colours are bright blue and white. They're a team of renown, and they're the pride of the town. And the game of football is their delight. And all the while upon the field of play, thousands loudly cheer them on the way. Often you can hear them say, who can beat the town today? And then the bells will ring so merrily, 'cause every goal shall be a memory. So town, play up and bring that cup back to Huddersfield. So town, play up and bring the cup back to Huddersfield.